had me at Jello, Jello. You had me at Jello. You had me at Jello. Oh, you had me at Jello. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday again. Time for yet another edition of Cello Chat. And this one, super special. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have with me today Abby Newton. Abby, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
That's terrific.
I'm really loving what's going on these days.
Oh, good. Well, good. Well, this is a real thrill. Now, I know, I'm sure most everybody knows who you are, but if you wouldn't mind telling a bit of your background, including that ever fascinating story of what got you started on cello in the first place.
Great. Yeah. Well, I grew up, my mother was a piano teacher. I'm one of four girls, three sisters. Um, and my mother's best friend played viola in the Denver Symphony and taught violin and viola, and my mother taught piano. So they did an exchange. So I was learning violin. All my sisters were learning violin. And then all of her children were learning piano. And being the third daughter, I wanted to be different. So I wanted to play the cello. I didn't want to play the violin like everybody else in the family. And it was offered in school, which was really an important thing. So I'm in fifth grade, Denver. Well, actually, I lived in Boulder at that time, um, and so I was able to bring my cello to school and play in the school orchestra. And we lived on the of Colorado campus, so I was able to start cello lessons with that teacher, the teacher who taught at CU. So it was sort of a win-win. We then ended up having a sisters string quartet. So somebody had to play the cello. I was very glad that I was the one that chose to play the cello.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then how did your career evolve from there?
Yeah. So, we were a very eclectic family in the sense that I was not driven to just practice, 8 hours a day as a kid. We skied, we did all sorts of things. Reading books was really important, bit of traveling. So I wasn't one of those kids that practiced 8 hours a day, but music was always an essential part of my life. Um, and so I continued playing and practicing, maybe not as much as to become, a soloist, a classical soloist, but it was always part of my life. It was just part of really who I was as a person, was being a cellist, playing the cello. It's my voice. It's one of my voices. And now it's very much one of my voices as I've recorded and um, taught and had workshops. It's very much a way of expressing myself that's extremely important to me. So um, yeah, so I grew up playing. Always, I played in a symphonies in Boulder. Uh, I went to University of Wisconsin and played in the Madison Symphony, and ended up majoring in music. I was not going to major in music, but I started um, taking lessons with in the music department, and I think it was Lowell Kreitz or somebody said, "Well, why aren't you a music major? You should be majoring in this." I said, "Oh, right, okay." So at that point, I did drop out of school and practiced 8 hours a day for a semester, and went back in and finished my degree in music, and I loved it. It was wonderful. That gave me a real sense of joy and commitment to the cello, that it sort of turned the tide in terms of not just being an amateur cellist, but wanting to become a professional cellist in some manner.
Wow.
You know.
Okay, and then what led you? I think you're best known for your wonderful work with getting, what kind of, I think, had been the purview of the violins, of playing Celtic or Scottish fiddle music, for example, and getting it to be part and parcel of cello playing. What led you to do that?
Okay, well, so that has a backstory, and that is that I graduated from college in January because I'd taken the semester off. So then my I graduated in January, and was a bit footloose. Wasn't sure what I was going to do, and so I ended up moving up to Putnam County. Well, what I wanted to do was I really wanted to go to London and study cello with William Pleath. That was sort of my dream, and I was going to become, a really dedicated classical musician. But I ended up moving next door to Jay Unger. I don't know if you know that name. Everybody knows that name, right? So I moved next door to Jay and Lynn, who were friends of my sister. And I was living with a guy who was also a friend of my sister's husband. It's just sort of this community. And at some point, Jay said, "Why don't you bring your cello over to the community square dances, and just play along with us?" And I said, "I can't play without dots." you know, I need the music in front of me. And then I said, no, I'm going to try this. So I started playing, just going over once a week for these community square dances. They were called Concerned Democrat Square Dances. And Pete and Toshi Seeger were sort of the founding members of this community square dance. And Jay and Lynn and I started playing, and then there was a local caller. And another person who was there was John Cohen, who was married to Penny Seeger, Pete Seeger's youngest sister by a different marriage, by a different mother. So Penny was married to John Cohen, and John Cohen was the banjo player in the New Lost City Ramblers, along with Mike Seeger, Penny's brother. Very, this is all, the old time scene. So anyway, so John Cohen is there, and he's playing banjo, and he had seen photographs of cellos in the early 1900s, cellos in old-timey string bands. So, there'd be an old-timey string band from 1905, and there was two fiddles and a guitar and a cello. And so he said, we need to bring back the cello into old-time music. And, so we formed a band, and it was Jay Unger, Lynn Hardy, his wife, me, and John Cohen. And we were called the Putnam String County Band because we were all from Putnam County at the time. So not the Putnam County String Band, but the Putnam String County Band. Little twist. So that's what started me just putting the notes aside, throwing the music stand away and opening up my ears and having to listen for chord changes, listen for counter melodies, listen for bass lines, but it all had to come from my ear, and then I had to translate it into my playing. So it had to really, it was not blocked by that music stand, which
Yeah. Well, I
I
like that.
just so encourage. I so encourage my students. I give we'll get into my workshops, but um, putting away the music stand and just letting your ears be the response to music it opens up just worlds of pleasure and just learning music and hearing differently. It's very exciting.
Oh,
So
very
that
well.
happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me really sort of early on in my cello career, and then it was goodbye, William Pleath. I lived in a little log cabin with a wood burning stove that almost burnt down, and my cello was my my good cello was up in the attic. My cello I'd gotten under the Christmas tree, which became my touring cello with the Putnam String County Band. You know, so I went off into this whole different life, which really opened up so many doors for me, so many doors.
So then, at around what point did you, or did it go this way? That then you proactively started heading towards the route of the, what is it, 16 CDs? It's more than that. It was, I think, 16 with one person alone, and all the arranging and composing, and did you decide, all right, I'm going to not do the traditional classical scene at all? No, because you did that some too.
Yes, I did do the classical scene. Yes, I always kept it up. I played in the Hudson Valley Philharmonic. I played the American Symphony. I always had a sort of a double life,
Hmm.
which I totally relished. I could not give up one for the other.
Hmm.
That and playing. old time music and playing, then I'll get into my Scottish music. Playing music by ear only, augmented my classical music, only made me a better player because my ears were just much bigger, you know, and I
That's
could
great.
read between the lines or whatever it is, when you're hearing as much as you're seeing.
Okay. I love this. I love this. I'm going to have my ear training students watch the video too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
another one of the questions I wanted to ask is sometimes, I mean, actually, there's a number of things that you do fearlessly that can be intimidating to some of the young cellists who watch these interviews. One of them is playing for that unforgiving microphone. Is some of your strategy or success recording also based on just having listened more and put away your eyes, put away the stand? Or what other advice do you have for people who want to get to that level of playing for the mic?
Right. Well, this brings me up to that the many, many, many albums that I have made that I've played on. I don't know, early into the or midway into the Putnam String County Band, Philo Records called up me and Jay Unger and said we would like you to back up some musicians that were starting to record, and they just did tons of recordings of folk musicians. So basically, Jay and I became known as the Philo Philharmonic, the two of us, because we went to these recording sessions and we sat down with these musicians, and I might have made a chord chart because for me it was easier to sort of very fast sort of come off of an improvisation by having a little bit of an idea of what, because I have to follow the chords,
Mm-hmm.
as a cellist. We are, well, not always, but a bass line is a follows the chord line. So I got a lot of experience playing in front of a microphone in terms of recording. And recording, at least if you make a mistake, you can go back and overdub. Of course, if it's a live recording, that's a lot harder. So you need to be really practiced. You need to know what you're doing so that you're not making a lot of mistakes. And it just becomes another sort of arm there. It's something to just use as a tool to get your voice across. And then if something isn't perfect, you can change it, or you can listen and realize what you're doing wrong. I mean, the other thing that I've done is a lot of record producing. So I've produced over 100 records, which is basically musical direction. It's not the producer getting this stuff together. It's sitting behind the board and listening to somebody in there recording. Like I did, Priscilla Herdman is a wonderful singer who I've done all of her albums. Jean Redpath was another person who I produced or co-produced all of her albums. So your ears have to be really tuned in to listen to what somebody else is doing and say, no, I don't think that works, or you can do that better, or think about this, or what about this arrangement? So it's really learning on the fly too. A lot of this is learning on the fly and just sort of going, okay, this is what I hear, but it's all about your ears, really. It's all about hearing, listening.
Yeah,
you
excellent.
know
Yeah, that producing role is so valuable because then the performer isn't trying to keep part of their brain going, oh wait, I need to remember that spot, or how'd I do on that?
right. Right. And I've been trying to do another CD myself, and I've been really looking for a producer to help me because I want that person behind the board to say, no, you can do that again. Just quickly, just do it again because this time it'll be great. You know. So anyway, it's an important role, and it's a fun role too because you're painting. You're the painter. You get to you know use this beautiful voice to really hear what works and what doesn't.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, and as far as also the arranging and composing that you've done, I know there are people who watch these interviews who, if they were to give it a try, would find that they'd very much enjoy that as well. but there's also kind of either a fear factor or just kind of a little hump to get over to get started. Do you have any words of advice along those lines?
Yeah, so I'll just say the way I've done it. First of all, I didn't even follow through with my meeting of Jean Redpath, who is just a very important part of my life. So, in the Putnam String County Band, just to go
Oh,
back a
sorry.
little bit, we
Yeah.
that's okay. No, I'm going off on tangents, but I need to bring her in because that's just such an essential part of my composing and everything else. Um, so anyway, the Putnam String County Band was playing at a festival, and Jean was at the same festival, and she came over to me and said, "Gee, I'd really like to hear cello with my with my music. You know, would you want to come and record with me at Philo Records?" So that was one of the Philo record recording artists. And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And she has this gorgeous voice, and the cello against her voice are it's just perfect. I mean, she really knew what she wanted. Um, so I go in though, and I don't really know any of the music, and so I'm just getting a huge education as you know, step by step. But I took basically what I would do is if I was going to back up her on a song, I would take her recording, you know, a rough recording, just you know, on a cassette tape. I'd have her record the song, and then I would sit with it and basically use my ear to say, okay, sometime I'm going to play melody with her, and then I'm going to move away from the melody and try to create a counter melody, or I'm just going to do a bass line, or I'm going to try to make something really make this song really make my cello part really augment this song. Like there's a song that she sang called "The Terror Time," and it's about these kids, these gypsy kids in Britain in the early days who were left on this, you know, who were freezing on the street because they didn't have homes and they were, and they never knew when they were going to get their next meal. And I just created this really eerie octave background to go, and it just, oh my God, that song gives me chills to this day. You know, the words, her singing, and the backup. You know, so really, it's just getting out there and doing it, and not judging yourself, but just saying, "Oh, how about this?" or "How about that?" and then maybe making a recording of what you're of her and you together, so that you say, "Oh, no, that doesn't work," or um, you know, "Oh, now I have another idea," or something. You know, so I would take counter melody, I would play the melody, I would do bass lines, I would try to do create the feeling,
That's great.
you
I
know.
love this. I'm thinking of some of my students, for example, who have a tendency to be perfectionists. And it's so, I mean, just even the word perfectionism, you know, when we say just do it, just try it and see what you get. We're not arguing against excellence in the outcome, but that perfectionism can sometimes just cripple people from even making the attempt in the first place.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what I say. Let go of all self, you know, approval. You know, you don't need to approve of yourself. You just it's all about the music. It's not about perfection. It's about making mistakes, actually, because sometimes the mistakes are what inform and are really great and change the whole tenor of something because the mistakes lead you down another path. And whoa, that's fun. You know? So
Nice.
it really is getting rid of that really trying to relax away from that perfectionism and breathe, just breathing. Breathing is a lot about my teaching my students. I'm sure it is for you too. Breathing is so important, and that's part of getting rid of the perfection. You know, it's like, oh, I gotta do it perfectly. You know, I've got to do this. Oh, hold my breath through the whole thing. You know, so that's you know, breathing is all part of letting go, basically. You know.
All right, and so you have cello retreats every summer, and I'm sure that the breathing is a component of this, the listening, the moving the stand out of the way. I'm curious what else, in a nutshell. I mean, for example, is there somewhat of a switch that you flip between when you're playing classical cello and when you're playing folk cello?
Um, Not really. They sort of blend together. And I in my retreats, I'm not teaching classical and I'm not teaching technique per se. I mean, I will bring in technique, but I usually have like 6 to 9 students there, so you can't individualize. I teach some of them privately now on Zoom, but um, so the retreats are great. This is my 10th. I just spent my 10th anniversary. That's last summer we had a big party for the 10th year. And I get a variation of abilities or experienced players. I have some really fine classical players, PhD classical at Indiana last summer, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do with this guy who's only been playing for 5 years? And it is just so amazing and wonderful how the group comes together. And it's partly that I'm not teaching this classical player to play better Bach or whatever. I am teaching everybody by ear. And so it really brings us all down to a similar level because look, classical musicians are not used to learning by ear. They're not used to using their ears with their music down the road. And so everybody is being, having their ears open and having a whole different their part of their brain used, which really levels us all out, brings us all together on the same plane in a lot of ways. I mean, some people can't quite play technically because I don't teach to the lowest denominator. I teach to basically a medium because that's what you have to do when you have a big spread. But I really also get them learning from each other and listening to each other. So, like, I'll start the session out with we're all just going to play a 3 octave scale and we're going to absolutely tune to each other. This is going to be, the whole group is going to be perfectly in tune because we are going to be so aware of ourselves in relation to everybody else. So that just starts, first of all, starts us bringing us together, and as a group learning. Um, and then I don't even know what question you asked me, but I'm just telling you about my retreats
Yeah, please.
Be- because there's so much fun. Then the other thing is that I'll teach a tune, and then I will teach backup. But what I'll do is not give any sort of. I will ask people to improvise their backup. So we'll figure out what the chords are. I'll get the group to figure out what the chords are. They know the melody now, and I'll play the melody, and they can pizzicato and figure out the chords. And then we may go around the room, and everybody set up a different rhythm. So listen, okay, you play off of that, and you play off of that, and so then we have this like engine going, and then we play the melody against this incredible, energized backup. I mean, they're just all sorts of fun things that bring people together. And then when we play the tunes and the harmonies and the bass lines and the rhythm, it's a cello orchestra just like you have never heard. And I have people who come to, I have a Saturday night Kaylee, which is basically a music party where I invite people from the community to come with their instruments, and we just have a big jam session, music party. But it's always about the cellos getting to perform their their what they've been working on all week, and then jam with everybody else. I have one woman that comes and participates as a singer, and she lies on the floor in front of the cellos, and she says it's the most vibration, musical greatest experience she's ever had. It's just so it really is coming together that the cello is such a great sound and it's such a great voice and it has so much potential. It's can be as high as a violin, low, high, low, but it's got this warm, beautiful voice and you can do so much with it, you know.
Again, really well said. And I like just even the word fun that you threw in there. There's clearly fun in the photos in your sheet music book and on your website, in with the occasional cat pictures, which are fun too. But it's like if we're on stage and we don't appear to be having fun, then how engaged do we expect the audience to get? How caught up do we expect them to get if we're not having a blast playing the beautiful instrument?
Well, see, that's what it's all about. I mean, music, playing, performing is not about, it's not about, you know, being perfect for them, for that audience. It's not about being perfect for them. It's about you. And I get into a Zen thing when I'm playing, and it's like, it's just, me coming out. It's my expression and my love for what I'm doing, and my love for the music, and joy in playing this really fun tune or this really sad tune, but it's what I feel about it that I want to get across to the audience, but you know what? I get it across by having it happen to me. You know, I think I don't have to force something on the audience. I just have to let it come out and be I have to be inside myself and really just loving what I'm doing. And then the audience totally picks up on that because that's what they're hearing, because that's what they're getting it. They're open, they're hearing with the emotion in this or the joy or and it's going right into their ears, into their heart and not, you know, yeah.
That's
It's
great.
so important.
That's great. Well, I tell you, the discussion to me has already been extremely motivating. I hope everybody watching this is just really looking forward to having some awesome practice sessions all weekend. But I do like to ask guests, when you have a student who just is, for whatever reason, is just at a point where they could use some help with motivating themselves to practice, to continue to play or work on a particular passage to get to where they want to, where they want to get. Do you have some just ideas that you'd share about helping to motivate students when they need it?
Yeah, I think about this, because this is an important thing. I'm just trying to relate to one particular student that I have who works very hard, but at one point she was saying she was working on a classical piece, and just saying, "Oh, I just need to quit the cello. I just need to quit the cello. This just doesn't make any sense to me." I said, "No, stop, Christina, stop, stop, stop." um, so basically, I said, well, in terms of if a certain piece of music is really, really bringing you down, let's change. Let's do something else. And she was doing other things also. So we went on to Bach, but I think for me, giving or suggesting music for people to play, like maybe dropping that for the moment and let's just go play a fiddle tune. Let's just go play something that is going to get you off away from that angst and from that stuckness,
Mm.
you know. Um, so that's one method. That's one way of doing something. Just let it relax for a minute. Just, let's clear the air. Another one is, well, I know with this particular student, she loves to practice, but she loves to just rush through everything. And so I will spend time in a lesson going over 4 bars and making her do it over and over and over again until it's perfect 10 times. This is what us teachers do, right? Um, but the thrill at the end of it, and then when she has gotten it, and then when she comes back the next week and can play that passage so well. So it's really partly that's is teaching that technique to students, I think. Teaching them to take it's hard. And we all have to do it ourselves as players. We have to just single out those passages and say, okay, but if you're not getting it, also just get up and go away and go pet the cat and take a glass of water and then come back. That's the other thing is just taking a break from it. Don't let it get so frustrating that you want to stop the cello. you know, I mean, it's just trying to think of different ways to keep the enthusiasm, but get the technique learned, but not force it down their throat. And yeah, It's interesting. It's always an interesting, you know, challenge.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Well, I also
Mm.
I want to ask you about the projects you have in the works right now. I know you're working on another book, which I'm very excited about. And I also want to make sure and mention to all the viewers that one of your upcoming Zoom workshops will be with the Wisconsin ASTA chapter on January 13th. But if you want to elaborate on any of these or any other upcoming projects you have, I'm sure you've got many of them.
Yeah, well, the first project that I just spent the weekend with a student of mine who's in her 30s now, and she's been a student of mine since she was 15, and she has been a part of every single one of my retreats. She's my work study biggest helper. But anyway, she's also good on the computer and has been pushing me to get this book done, along with another student who has been putting them all of these tunes into MuseScore. So I have these wonderful helpers. I have these wonderful students who just really want to encourage more of this music. So anyway, Rachel and I put together the format for the whole book, and I have 68 tunes now that are ready to be edited by me and corrected and put bowings and fingerings in and all that stuff. So I'm hoping by the summer this will be out. And I'm choosing tunes, as in my other books, my other two books, it's Celtic music basically, and my whole role in playing cello in Celtic music has been to make tunes available and not just too ridiculously difficult on the cello. So I'll pick tunes that really work and that don't go up into, you know, lots of back and forth thumb position and stuff because we don't have an E string, you know. So so my goal, and there's just thousands of tunes out there, and it's so much fun to find some new ones, not just the ones that everybody plays, but find a whole new body of work that people can be turned on to. So I'm very excited by this book. It feels like it's really coming together now. Yeah, yeah. At the same time, I'm doing a new recording with a pianist that I've been playing with, Selma Kaplan, who's just wonderful Celtic. She's done, millions of dances with fiddle players and but she also loves the Scottish airs and whatnot. So we've been since COVID, we've been getting together with our masks, or maybe a year after COVID, and now learning a whole bunch of new material. So for a new CD.
That's great.
So
That's tremendous.
those are my sort of two at home projects. In addition to Zoom teaching, I teach students all over the country, New Mexico, Maryland, Maine, a lot of different places. So, I mean, that was something that COVID did for us.
Mhm.
It's not ideal, but it works,
Yeah, opens up
It's
some new avenues for some people. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
in your Caves, Castles, and Kirks book, when working out of that with students, just we sometimes enjoy, because you're talking about not making them terribly difficult. And it's funny if a student has been working on for one for a while and then does a series of three, this one and that one and that one. Sometimes maybe throw in either taking one up an octave on a repeat or adding in some drone open strings. They're almost all in keys where you can just add in some double stops here and there without adding too much technical difficulty. And that what hopefully comes across as spontaneous variety and variation really is, again, ideally, a lot of these students will eventually get to where they are interested in improvising on their own. But sometimes that working away from having all the notes in front of you can be a gradual process. Hey, let's add some stuff
Oh
that's
yeah,
not there,
absolutely, absolutely. It is a gradual process, so that it's not scary,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's, oh, sit down and just improvise. I don't know what to do. Like me, I don't know what to do. There are no dots. What am I going to do? So I just played bass lines on that first, those first square dances. But yeah, I love the idea that your students are adding double stops and doing that. I almost feel like I should add a little note in this new book about that. So that's giving me ideas about,
Great.
because I do try to encourage when I teach, for example, a slow air, I teach ornaments.
Mhm.
And I say you can add ornaments on every single note if you want. I mean, that's in the Scottish tradition. Um, so it's so maybe I'm going to try to give like a page of different kinds of ornaments so that they can then apply them to the things, but also adding the double stops and if they're playing with another person trying to, that's another thing, is if you ever have two students together, get them one, trade off playing the melody and a bass line just by looking at the chords. And now I have to, just a little caveat is the chords in Castle, both of my books are sometimes horrendous. So that's up to you as the player to say, I don't like that chord, I'm going to change it. And it's totally valid. You get to change anything. You change bowings, change chords, change fingerings. This is music that, I mean, when I play, I don't necessarily play the same bowing at all every time. But so when I put it in the book, it's just to sort of give a basis to, for something, and for some tunes, it's more valid than others. But I love that you're doing that with your students and get two of them together and playing these tunes with each other, trading back and forth.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, 'cause that's a good way really to get kids started. Where they know these tunes, have them memorize them. They're so easy, it's another good project is to have them, things should be done by memory. And so here's another little point that I do. And both Crossing to Scotland and Castles, Kirks, and Caves are books that are related to my CDs. So almost every tune, not in Castles, Kirks, but there you can listen to my CD and you can say, okay, I'm going to learn it from the CD. I'm going to learn this tune on Amazing Slowdowner or any number of these apps. I'm going to learn it by ear, and then I'm going to go back to the book if I need something, if I don't quite get it. So that's another way of using those books and using this music.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's
so yeah. So
well, this has been such great fun, and I know for all the viewers, hopefully just a wealth of inspiring things to try all week. You using their ear more, finding the joy, dropping the judgment portion, etc.
absolutely.
It's really been wonderful having you as a guest, Abby.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I just wanted to say something about my Wisconsin January 13th
Yes.
um, weekend. I am still, I've been so busy with other things that it will come to my mind, and I'll talk to Julie about what exactly is expected of me or my timing and whatever. So I still have to work that out, but it will be fun. We'll work out something fun for that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know my students
Good,
are
good,
as
good.
well. All right.
Great, excellent, excellent.
Well, thanks again, and best of luck, everybody out there practicing all weekend. We'll see you this time next week. Take care.
You had me at